Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my Star Wars reviews leading up to The Rise of Skywalker this December. And we're here. We finally got to the final chapter of the original Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi. So Return of the Jedi picks up pretty much where The Empire Strikes Back left off. Han is taken to Jabba's palace after being frozen in the carbonite. Lando, Chewbacca, Leia, and Luke, and C-3PO and R2-D2 go to Jabba's palace on Tatooine to rescue him. All while that's going on is the Empire is finishing construction on their new Death Star, and the rebels quickly figure this out. So once they rescue Han Solo, the gang goes to the Forest Moon of Endor to knock out the shield generator, and once they do that, then the rebels have to try to destroy the Death Star and take down the Empire once and for all. So even though I love Return of the Jedi, I really do love this movie, it's always been my least favorite of the original Star Wars trilogy, and when I was a kid, when I first saw it, it was just because I enjoyed the other two more. But now as an adult, I've come to realize that this movie has a little bit more flaws than the previous two Star Wars movies. But with that being said, I still really love this movie. So let's get into the positives first. So I know a lot of people complain that this part takes up most of the beginning, and while I do kind of agree with it, I really like the stuff at Jabba's palace. We finally get to see Jabba the Hutt, because in the original unaltered version, Jabba the Hutt wasn't in the first movie. So once you see him in this movie, Return of the Jedi, it's like, whoa, that's Jabba the Hutt. You know, he's big, he's slimy, he's disgusting. But he's also someone you don't want to mess around with because he can pretty much do whatever he wants. The guy runs his own palace. He has sex slaves. He's got live music playing. He has a trap door right by his feet. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. He can eat whatever he wants. He can kill whoever he wants. He's basically living the ultimate bachelor's life, if you really think about it. So while I do agree that the opening of this movie does go on a bit too long and it should have been trimmed down a little bit better, I do really like the stuff that's in it, especially when our lead characters are sentenced to death by the Sarlacc pit and Luke just grabs his green lightsaber and just starts wailing on everybody. That's another thing I love about this movie, Luke Skywalker. He's always been my favorite character in the original trilogy, and in this movie, this is a much different Luke Skywalker than we got in the first two movies. He's had more Jedi training. He's more one with the Force. He's controlled his patience. He's controlled his whining. And when he gets that lightsaber, he shows no mercy. He is throwing people off ledges and swinging that thing like crazy. It's really awesome stuff. And it's great to see our group of main characters back together because they were completely separated for the majority of The Empire Strikes Back. Although it does raise a question, though, about Lando, and a question that people have had for a long time about Lando, and that is, why isn't Han more pissed off at Lando? Lando betrayed Han in The Empire Strikes Back, and Han never raised any questions. I guess you could look at it that Han found out that after Lando did what he did, he was a huge part of rescuing him. So that stuff probably happened off screen and we just assumed that happened, but it could have been addressed. For continuity's sake, I think it could have been addressed. So the rebels find out about this new Death Star, and many Bothans died to bring them information on how to destroy the Death Star, and the plot of that is basically the same as the first movie. You know, they gotta figure out how to blow up the Death Star and then actually go do it. It's very similar in that regards, although it does seem a little more complicated. And Han, Luke, Leia, and Chewbacca and all of them go down to the Forest Moon of Endor to disable the shield generator. And this is where, for some fans, the problems start to occur. Now, I'm just going to say it right now, I don't really mind the Ewoks all that much. A lot of people hate the Ewoks. I don't hate them, but I do agree with some of the criticisms that the Ewoks get in this movie. And that is that after the darkness of The Empire Strikes Back and how much of a more serious direction that took Star Wars, we go back to friendly kitty type stuff with the Ewoks, because let's be honest, the Ewoks, they're not a threat at all. They take down the Empire with absolutely nothing. Like, they literally have rocks and sticks, and they take down these stormtroopers with full-on armor that people have complained about that for years. I'm willing to accept it. You know, you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit with certain movies, especially ones like Star Wars. But yeah, the Ewoks aren't threatening. I can kind of understand why people hate them, but I don't hate them myself. I think they're fine. They do their job. I would have loved the original idea that they would have done for this movie. The original idea was it was the planet of Wookiees, Kashyyyk, or it was called Kazoo or something like that. I don't know. It was called that back then. But the original idea was it to be a planet of Wookiees. That would have been really cool to see if you ask me, because I think it would have given Chewbacca a little bit more depth than he had in the previous two movies. So my absolute favorite part of this movie is that Darth Vader is trying to convince his son Luke Skywalker to join the dark side, and he gets the Emperor involved in this. The stuff with Darth Vader and the Emperor and eventually Luke Skywalker are my favorite parts of this movie. I love the conflict that Luke has to go through. And when Luke finally becomes face to face with the Emperor, that is my favorite in this entire movie and pretty much the entire Star Wars trilogy, because it's so interesting and so threatening and so cool to see. We're seeing our main character pretty much be going through the final trials that he's been on this path when we met him in the original Star Wars. Luke had bigger dreams than just being a farmer, and he eventually became a Jedi with Ben Kenobi, and then we finally see these final trials of him becoming that Jedi, and it doesn't disappoint. It's really interesting to see. So let's just get right to the third act, because that is the best part of this movie. The conflict between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor is very interesting, but the space battle destroying the Death Star is really, really awesome. I shuffle between this one and the original Star Wars as which one is my favorite. This one in Return of the Jedi is stretched out a lot more, so you could say that this one has a little more to offer, whereas the original, it was just the last portion of the movie, and it just, it's awesome to see. But again, I struggle with which one is my favorite, because there is much more going on in this battle than in the original one. And even though the Ewoks are kind of I really like the Battle of Endor. It's very cool to see. It's very Star Warsy. The heroes get captured, but then the Ewoks distract them, and they were able to get their weapons, and they start shooting, and stormtroopers are dying, Ewoks are dying, those giant walkers are being taken over by Chewbacca. It's really great Star Wars stuff. But by far the best is the stuff between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor. I've said this before, but I absolutely love it. The eventual lightsaber fight, it's very, very thrilling. This is actually my favorite lightsaber fight in the entire Star Wars saga, because it's not just about the lightsabers. That was my problem with the lightsaber fights in the prequel trilogy, was that the fights were just about fancy choreography and, swinging lightsabers in your face. This one in Return of the Jedi is much more than that. It's Luke being tested by the Emperor. He's doing things wrong, but he's snapping out of it because he knows he's better than this. And once he snaps out of it, Vader has the upper hand by, trying to get those feelings back in him, but Vader's fighting against him. He jumps up on this ledge, and Vader throws his lightsaber, knocking him down, and then he's hiding for the last part of this lightsaber fight, and Vader's toying with him. He's trying to pick those emotions again in Luke, because he knows if he does it, Luke will snap and turn to the dark side. So what do you do in this scene? Well, you have Vader find out that Leia is Luke's sister and also his daughter. So he says that classic line, "If you won't turn to the dark side, then maybe she will." And then Luke explodes. You remember how pissed off Vader got in The Empire Strikes Back after the end of that lightsaber fight? This is what's happening with Luke. He's just swinging that lightsaber. He's trying to take down Vader, and the music is awesome in this scene. It's so emotional, and I love it every time it plays. So then Luke finally takes down Vader by cutting off Vader's hand, and the Emperor is just laughing. He is enjoying this because he's finally done it, at least he thinks. He says to him, "Your hate has made you powerful. Now fulfill your destiny and take your father's place at my side." And then Luke snaps out of it again. He's like, "Oh crap, what have I done?" He looks at his robotic hand. He looks at Vader's now gone robotic hand. And he detracts his lightsaber and throws it. And that was the end of Luke's training. He finally stood up to Vader and the Emperor and says to him, "You failed, Your Highness. I'm a Jedi like my father before me." And then the Emperor has that look on his face like, oh crap, I didn't expect this to happen. So then the Emperor shoots him with lightning because he says, if you're not going to join us, and you're going to die. And in this moment, Vader's now conflicted. You know, Luke made some pretty valid points. And the Emperor he's seeing the Emperor basically kill his son. So he's making a decision like, what do I do? Do I help my master and not do anything, or do I help my son? And it's great because you don't see Anakin's facial expressions. You just see the helmet. He's turning back and forth like, what should I do? And then he looks at Luke, and then he looks at the Emperor, and then he goes after the Emperor, picks him up and throws him off the ledge, sorting out his suit. It's great stuff, and I've always hated that the official Blu-rays threw in a no when he picked up the Emperor. It's like, you had such a great scene and you just dumped on it. So anyway, Vader's dying, and his dying wish is to look at Luke face to face with his own eyes. And you get the reveal of Anakin Skywalker in the Vader suit, and the death of Darth Vader is handled absolutely perfectly. It's not overdrawn, it's not cheesy, it's perfect. And then the Rebels destroy the Death Star, and Return of the Jedi basically ends with a victory celebration on Endor. So there's a lot of great moments in this movie, and I mean great moments, but it's still my least favorite of the original Star Wars trilogy. The flaws definitely show a little bit more to me now than when I did as a kid, but I still love this movie so much. You know, the effects are still top-notch, the story is finally fulfilled, and you can see the bigger image, and it's so awesome. There's so many great moments in this movie. The stuff with Luke, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's my favorite part of not just this movie, but the entire Star Wars saga. Everything comes to a close so perfectly in this, and by the time it ends, you're like, yeah, this is a good place. This is a great place to stop the original trilogy. I may have some issues with it. It may be my least favorite of the original Star Wars trilogy, but I have to. I can't give this movie a lower grade than Oscar worthy. I love it. I love it so much, and though I have issues with it, I can overlook those issues because of how great the movie and the overall story is because of this movie. Return of the Jedi is not a perfect movie, but my God, it's a satisfying conclusion to a great trilogy. So let me know what you guys think of Return of the Jedi in the comment section, and where does it rank in your Star Wars ranking, just like always. And I'm finally getting closer to finishing my Star Wars reviews. My last Star Wars review is going to be Star Wars The Force Awakens. Look forward to that pretty soon, and look forward to a special Star Wars related video. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm excited to bring it to you guys. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So yeah, whatever your thoughts on everything is, let me know in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, click right here. And I will see you guys next time.